Hello and welcome to the RV Living Show. I'm Luann Street of Design Your RV Life, and I am diving in today the topic of when is the best time for you to start your full-time RV life. So hang with me because you're going to get some tips. Welcome back, my friends, to the RV Living Show. Once again, I'm Luann Street of Design Your RV Life, and I just want to welcome you today to our topic. When is the best time to start planning your full-time RV life? There's a lot of people out there wanting to ditch their sticks and bricks and go full-time, and yet that decision to when is the right time is often the thing that holds us back or at least gives us pause, right? Because we want to make the right decision. We don't want to make the wrong one. And I'm here to tell you that, you can think about it, plan. But if you don't move forward and take action, you might never do it. So let's dive into some of that mindset that comes behind that decision of the best time. Okay. So I want to welcome everyone here who's watching with me live and those who are watching on the replay or on the podcast. I'm excited that you're going to join me for this topic. I love talking about full timing. It is something that has changed my life, and I hope it's going to change yours. So the first thing that I want to talk about is, you really want to determine when you're thinking about going full time, the first thing that you should consider are what are your goals? So a lot of us are waiting until we retire. Maybe we can actually retire earlier than 65. Retirement could be a wide variety of ways that we can accomplish going full time or set the goal for going full time. But you know, as you think about that is your goal, you're going to retire. And then how many times have you heard the story where people are like, well, I'm going to retire and I'm going to do this, but then the company asks you to stay. They ask you to consult. They ask you to come back as a contractor. And so is this going to be part of your goal in your full-time RV life? Do you still want to work? But on the other hand, if you're wanting to work and take your work on the road with you, when is the best time to do that? Do you have everything solidified where they're not going to be calling you back into the office? I actually kind of struggled with that a little bit myself. What are your goals? If you're planning for 5-10 years from now, I'll tell you that Brian and I had actually set our freedom date to be 10 years in the future when we started doing this. We wanted to wait until at least one of us was going to be able to collect some Social Security to just help fund our lifestyle. I was actually younger than Brian, so that played into the fact that then we would take my job remote. But the goals in setting your full-time RV life date, which I call our freedom date, is it varies from person to person. Maybe it's retirement. Maybe you are setting the goal that you want to live life now with no regrets. That was what I wanted. I watched my parents constantly talk about, oh, I want to travel. Oh, I want to do this. Oh, I want to do that. My mother more than my dad. And they just never did it. They never took action. And I didn't want to be that person that didn't take action. And looking at what my retired life was going to look like if I didn't decide to RV or even go full time in my RV, I didn't like what I saw. So we made the decision to go full time before we were retired. But there were still some goals that we had to set. We had to figure out our income. We had to do, step 1, step 2, all the decisions, everything that comes into that. So thinking about that, we're going to dive into a couple scenarios of, starting early and also of a closed time period. So as you set this goal, maybe your goal is for 3 years from now, and you have certain things in place that's the trigger and that's when you're going to go. But starting planning early can have an advantage to it. But I do want to talk for a minute about if you're setting your goal farther and farther out, if it's not because of like that retirement reason or that income equation part, I just want to talk for a minute about that procrastination is the biggest killer of motivation. So the longer that you plan this out, the more you are going to struggle with, your desire to get on the road versus having to stay stuck in something that you don't want now, because you're planning, you're watching, you're watching this video because you want to know when is the best time for me to do that. And I just don't want you to get stuck in that trap of procrastinating, because it can kill your motivation to even get started on doing the things required to go full time. That's I don't know how many of you have ever set, let's talk for a minute. Like, let's think back to school, right? If you had a science project due and you're thinking about, well, some of us could wait until the last minute and do it, like the night before, and stay up all night and get it done. Some of us maybe started 6 weeks ago and have it done and it's all ready to hand in way in advance. But if you procrastinate, your motivation can be killed of your desire to go full time. So I don't even know if that was good grammar, but there you go. So let's talk for a minute about the advantages of starting early. So the advantages of starting early means that you have a lot of time to do the biggest thing that you're going to have to do, and that is downsize. For those of us who are transitioning from our sticks and bricks into our full-time RV, you're going to have to get rid of your stuff. And that is one of the biggest quicksands or hurdles that happen to somebody who wants to full-time RV, because you've got a house full of stuff. Maybe you've lived in that house for 30, 40 years, and now you're looking around and all the things that you own cannot go with you into that RV. And so, having starting early, you could potentially make more money on your stuff if that's a goal of yours. But I will say that it does take longer to downsize if you procrastinate. You get stuck in the mire, you're not moving forward, you can't make a decision. And because you still have time, that is the problem with that. You have time. And so you don't take action and you don't go and take the steps necessary. And then we go back to our quote, procrastination is the biggest killer of motivation, right? Because you're like, well, I don't know, maybe I can't do this. And, you give yourself time for the doubts and things to creep in, and then you don't ever launch. And that is not what we want for you, right? But again, back to the advantage of starting early, you're going to make more money because you're going to have time to have your garage sales. You're going to have time to have your estate sales. You're going to have time to sell things on marketplace or apps, in different ways of making money, because some of the stuff that we have is worth something. But you may not always sell it the first time. So that, kind of leans into the other thing of that are you going to let that hold you back because you're not going to get the right amount of money for it? So, but that's a whole nother topic for another time, downsizing. But again, that is one of the advantages of starting early. The other advantage of starting early is that you nail down your decision. You really understand and know that this is what you really want to do. You've had time to think about it. You've had time to talk to your travel partner about it. And you are ready to make that decision. And so the advantage of starting early can be a lot of those things. So, but I'm going to pause right here before I go on to the advantages of a closed time period. And I want to invite you to coming up with, it's called Launch Your Full-Time RV Life. You can get it at this link. And that it's a 2-hour workshop. It's coming up in 2 weeks. We're going to do one on Thursday. We're going to do one on Saturday, and you can sign up. It's live. You're going to be live with me in Zoom, and I'm going to teach you how to launch your full-time RV life and give you some tools to help you get started. So if you're interested in that, you can check it out at this link. So let's talk for a minute about a closed time period, right? So starting early, you have lots of time. You can kind of wade through things and maybe have a more strategic plan for getting your income equation together and your downsizing kind of nailed down, and maybe time to do your home repairs because you want to sell it and make more money on it and all those types of things. But the advantages of a closed time period can really be a good thing. When you close that down into something that is, less than 3 years, 2 years, 1 year away, you are able to take action and make decisions that make you feel like you're going forward and having more momentum. So I'm going to tell you my story. I had a closed time period to go full time. We actually had made a decision that it was going to be in another year, possibly 2. And I'm telling you, the workshop will help you nail this down even more. And that's why I teach it, because having this arbitrary time out in the future, well, when I get this done or when I do that, it doesn't help you, because you can't move forward because it's not a date. So I'm really going to talk about that in the workshop. We're going to nail down those dates, your freedom dates, together. So as far as my story went, we were still talking about a year or 2 years in the future. And so we actually were talking to a realtor about putting the house in the market. And we had the rig that we wanted to live in, that we had purchased it, and we had been using it for vacations and weekends for a little bit, but we knew that we would move into this when the time was right. And so we were actually in the garage, kind of starting that whole, well, let's get rid of the stuff that we're not using currently, that we haven't touched in eons, that we moved into this house with, that we didn't even touch in our old house. So we were in the garage starting to figure that out when somebody pulled up in front of the house. And we had called a realtor to find out about what it would take to sell the house. Of course, the market wasn't what it is right now. So we were thinking that we were probably going to take maybe a small loss on because we had just bought it, right? But we really wanted to think about going full-time sooner. So we were counting that cost, weighing that risk out. So somebody pulls up in front of our driveway as we're in the garage, and it's a couple, and they're looking at the neighborhood, and they wanted to know about the neighborhood. They wanted to know about all the things that were going on. And they particularly asked about rentals. And I said, well, there are some rentals. I said, but we're thinking about putting ours on the market. Again, we had contacted the realtor, but didn't have any comps, weren't ready to make that leap right then. And knowing that we were going to lose a little money, honestly. And so we were talking to these people, and they said, well, we might be interested in buying. And I was like, well, you know what? If you want to, the house is a mess, but come on in and look. Come on in and let's look at that. And you can see if you even want to live in this neighborhood, because they were townhomes, and a lot of them were the same. So they came in and they looked around, and the very next day we got a full price offer with no realtor. So we weren't going to lose a dime on our house, which was amazing. Like that was, God dropped that in our lap, and we were like, okay, we're moving forward. This is what we're going to do. And so they wanted to move in at the end of October. This was the end of September. And the last week of October, we had already planned to go out to a work camping conference in Arkansas, because we were determined to find income for the road. We weren't waiting till we retired. We wanted to take action now. And so we were going to this work camping conference just to kind of, what can we do? How can we solve this? What are the opportunities? Well, because we were going to that conference and they wanted to close at the end of October, I actually only had 3 weeks to downsize. 3 weeks, people. That's it. And so, but that closed time period, we made decisions. There wasn't any part of the plan that we didn't make a decision on. And the thing is when you do, back to my procrastination, you hang on to the stuff that you don't need. You make the decisions that don't make you move forward faster. So the advantages of a closed time period is setting that date and working towards that date. Now, if you followed us for any length of time and heard our story before, we actually went to that work camper conference, came out of that and set our freedom date for 365 days. Again, when we took that offer on our house, we were still years away. And the thing is that you don't get the confidence until you take action. You don't get that gut feeling of, yes, I'm doing this and this is what we want to do, and we're doing it the right way. So I encourage you to jump in this workshop that I'm having next week. I would love to help you solidify your decisions and even find out if the full-time RV life, if you leave it knowing now that the full-time RV life is not for you, that's a win, right? Because you don't want to make a mistake, but you also want to solidify that moving forward is the right thing for you to do. So I'd love to have you in that workshop. Again, it's designyourrvlife.com/launch. All right. So as we move forward closer to the workshop, next week it's a pre-recorded video, and I'll be live with you guys in the comments, but I did an interview with a full-time couple. And so I'm calling next week's show Conversations with a Full-Timer. We're going to talk all about their RV life, about what a year in, what are they thinking? How did they get started? All the things. I interviewed them, and they're going to be on the show next week. So please join me for Conversations with a Full-Timer. All right. So I'm going to click in here and see who's with us live. All right. This is Kim. She says they're in Rockford, Illinois this week. Full-time RVers for 1 year now and loving it. We still work from the road and chose to go ahead with our full-time plans at this point in life so that we could enjoy our outdoor adventures and explore the country while we are still young and healthy enough to enjoy traveling. Amen. Amen. I love that. That is amazing. Actually, Kim is a graduate of my full-time RV framework. So that's awesome. Barbara and Rick, they are currently in Charlottesville, Pennsylvania. I was on a roller coaster, so I was screaming. When we finally nailed down our freedom date, it helped us get serious and spread things out over a year. Luann is correct. Taking action keeps you going and staying focused. Yes, it sure does. It's amazing. Barbara and Rick are also graduates of the full-time RV framework. So they are testimonies to the fact that what I teach and how I help you can really make a difference in your full-time RV life. Well, I thank you guys for showing up tonight. I appreciate all the comments and people interacting with me. I just really love that you like to come on, and I consider you all friends. So I just want to tell you guys to have a blessed week and keep up the good work moving towards your full-time RV life. And if I can help you at all, check out that workshop and we'll move forward together. You guys have a great week. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining me for the RV Living Show. I hope this episode helps you in creating an RV life that you love. Until next time, I encourage you to stop wondering and start wandering.